Are you guys awake? Anybody? Hungover? Glazed over? Nikki was excellent last night, and I need your help because I have a question for you, and I need some crowd participation. When people think about your brand, what is it that makes you different from every other law firm? Shout it out. Look, the reality is, if you can't answer that question in the time you were just given, you don't know your brand. Or worse, you don't have one. But you're here because you're hungry. Hungry for more. More leads, more clients, more cases, just more. Now, lead generation's like hunting. Sure, it'll get you fed today, but brand is like farming. Brand will keep you fed for years to come because brand breeds longevity. The problem is, brand is hard. It's hard to develop, it's hard to establish, it's hard to maintain. But your brand is critical because your brand is your story. So I'm gonna start with a little story right now. My name is Lee Rudin. I started my firm just over 2 years ago from a bedroom in my house. I was all by myself. I was the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. I started the firm with 16 personal injury cases, and we've grown it now to over 258. We started with 0 Google reviews, and we're up to 332 5-star reviews. Across social platforms, we had no followers, and we are up to 2,050. We reached 7 figures in revenue in our first full year, and we're on pace to double that in year 2. But before I opened my firm, I was a defense lawyer for a little over a decade. I was working the same cases I'm working now, but on the other side. And I really didn't like it. I didn't like that my job was to minimize injury claims to keep money in the hands of insurance companies and corporate clients. Now, it took me a while, but I finally put my foot down and left those firms. And all the while, I had organically built a book of plaintiff personal injury clients. And I realized I really liked helping people. Now this is my dad. He wasn't a lawyer. He actually had an accounting degree, but never practiced. And that's relevant because he said to me and my brother, be a professional. Because if everything goes to shit, you can just hang up a shingle. And earlier this year, he told me for the first time that it really bothered him when I worked at these other firms because he saw, even if I didn't at the time, that I could never reach my potential at any of them. And he was right. So when I struck out on my own, he was so happy because he saw me doing it with my own firm and in my own way. But I'm not so sure even my dad realized just how far I'd take the whole in my own way thing.
Were you hit? Were you slammed? Did your Uber or Lyft go wham? Did you slip inside a store? Is your back now sore galore? They'll say no kids, it's not that bad. They'll shrug it off. Oh, don't get mad. At Rudin Law, we change the mood. Stop being polite and get rude. We don't beg, we don't plead. We bring pressure, we make them bleed. Financially, of course, we make them bleed financially. We take your pain, we make them pay. We sue the pants off them all day. So if you're hurt and feeling screwed, call Rudin Law and get right rude.
Now, one day, I showed him my most recent video. It could have been this one, or this one, and maybe this one. And he looked at me and he said, Lee, what about your reputation? And I looked back at him and I said, Dad, what reputation? No one fucking knows me. See, this was something my dad and I never quite saw eye to eye on. I felt, with all this crap, I knew what I was doing. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. Building a brand that sticks from the ground up. A brand that will bring you business, but isn't all about you and your dignified, sterling reputations. You see, as a kid, you probably heard this phrase, the world doesn't revolve around you. It could have been from your mom or a teacher or some other adult. And you probably sat there thinking, sure, but my world revolves around me. And that's because humans are innately selfish and impatient. And injured humans, the kind that we all represent, are worse because they come to us with their world having been turned upside down. They come to us with their hair on fire. And the critical fact that we need to remember is it's not about us. And our brands shouldn't be either. Our brands need to be receiver-oriented. We need to think about our audience. What do they want? What do they want? What do they need? We need to listen to them. There's a saying, no one needs a hammer. They need a picture hung. Clients don't need a lawyer. What they need is a resolution. And they hire you or they hire me because they think one of us is going to give them the best outcome, whatever it is for them. Because as lawyers, we are service providers, professional service providers. But really, we're just a means to an end for our clients. And our brands must convey why we are the hammer or the screwdriver or the buzzsaw our clients need. So how do we do it? I've developed what I call the Get Rude brand strategy, and it has 3 parts. Get bold, get local, and get digital. So let's begin. What does it mean to get bold? Well, simply put, we are in the attention business, and safe things do not get attention. Now, I'm not saying that you have to get dressed up in a costume to make your point, although it might not hurt. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Lee, I'm never getting dressed up like the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus, the Grinch, Beetlejuice, Maui from Moana, Fred Flintstone, Moses, Jesus, because at Rudin Law, we are equal opportunity offenders. But the point here is that what's bold to me isn't necessarily bold to you. What will get my attention won't necessarily get yours. And that's okay. But if you're not willing to be dangerous with your brand, to take risks, you must do something different if you want to build a memorable brand. You must do something, anything, to break through the noise. And there's a lot of it. Because if your website or your logo or your social media contains pillars, the scales of justice, a gavel, rich mahogany, leather-bound books, you're not different and you're not memorable. You might be Ron Burgundy from Anchorman, but that's about it. And if potential clients don't remember you, how can they hire you? So how do we build a brand that's different? Remember the big question I asked you at the beginning? What is it about your law firm that makes you different from every other law firm? Well, if you still can't answer that question, I've come up with 3 approaches you can try to get bold with your brand. And don't worry, if you have an established firm name, you can use this for a DBA, a slogan, a tagline, or even just your logo. Approach number 1, the personality trait or style approach. This focuses on what makes you different, but it has to be authentic to who you are and how you are. Here are 2 sides of the same coin. Me, I created my brand off of the bold, aggressive, rude trait. And I'm not the only one. If you fancy the tough guy angle, there's a hammer in every metro area. And a strong arm too. And here in Arizona, there's the anti-lawyer lawyer. But maybe that's not you. Maybe you're more principled, compassionate, a man or woman of God. Well, in Texas, we have the Christian trial lawyers. In Florida, Muslim legal. And then everywhere else, there's Jewish lawyers, like me. Maybe that's not your style. Maybe you want to base your brand off of a physical appearance, a hobby, a passion, a skill, or your practice niche. How you look different or what you do that's different, with the difference being the point of emphasis. Around the country, we have firms that have based their brands off of the hair on their faces, and others that have based their brands on the lack thereof on their heads. And then also, both. But maybe it's not how you look, but what you love to do that makes you different. A hobby, like the attorney that rocks in Texas, or the skateboard lawyer in Michigan. Now, when your hobby and your practice niche blend together, it's a perfect brand marriage. Around the country, we have motorcycle lawyers, we have bicycle lawyers, we have horse lawyers, and we have boat lawyers. Maybe you're sitting there saying, Lee, I can't do any of these things. Well, last but not least, you can just make up a brand. I bet you recognize these two. But these guys, they're not tigers. And these guys, they're not dogs. And yet, both have built wildly successful brands that have them on this stage this year and last year and dominating their markets and going national. And you could too. Now, again, you might be sitting there saying, Lee, this is making me really uncomfortable. You're really pushing me out of my comfort zone. You might be thinking, fuck off, Lee. What's the least I could do? Now, if you can't or won't do any of these things, it's too much for you. Not enough time in the day. It's too expensive. You don't want to change the stationery. Well, can you at least use a different color? In a survey conducted of 10,000 law firm websites, Mean Pug Digital found that nearly 65% use the color blue and over 25% use the color red. That means that approximately 90% of law firm websites use either red or blue. So if you want to be different in the mildest, most milquetoast of ways, change your colors. But the point here is this. To create a bold, memorable brand, you have to take a risk and you have to stick to it. Because people, probably those close to you, will take your fun, crazy, different idea and make slight suggestions to blunt it. But a small tweak here and a little edit there, and you're back to the same boring brand. And that's not bold, and that's not memorable. Now, once you get a bold brand, what next? You got to take it to the streets. We all know that the best lead is a referral. But why? Because it's a warm lead. The know, like, and trust hurdle has been helped out by the people making the reference. Doesn't matter if it's a doctor, a lawyer, a past client, a friend, or a family member. So how do we foster additional referral sources? And to that, I say, you need to get local. At my firm, we employ a community engagement strategy with the goal of fostering additional referral sources. We try to find something that our potential clients are unreasonably obsessed with. We want to find something that they are passionate about, devoted and irrationally loyal to, and hitch our wagon to it. Because we think that if they associate us with a thing that they love, they may be more likely to hire us. And if they think we love the thing that they love, they may be more likely to hire us. That's why in every metro area, you have the official injury lawyer of insert your favorite sports team. Now, when I started my firm, I didn't have the money to sponsor the Saints or the Pelicans or LSU football. So I thought, what could be my sport? What could I sponsor? Now, as a kid, I was unreasonably obsessed with professional wrestling. I had hundreds of action figures. It was the theme at my bar mitzvah. And one day I came across a video on Instagram of my friend and his son in what looked like a high school gym with a wrestling ring. And I said, that looks interesting. And I dug a little deeper and I figured out that this local pro wrestling promotion had no sponsor. And I figured that any adult who loved wrestling enough not to go watch the WWE when they came to the Smoothie King Center or to watch the latest Monday Night Raw episode on Netflix, but to regularly attend wrestling matches in high school gyms and dive bars and tiny little convention halls had to be unreasonably obsessed. And they just might hire me because I sponsored their beloved wrestling promotion. And I also thought that wrestling fans are the kinds of people that would be likely to hire an advertising injury lawyer. And I know I'm not alone in that thinking. But before Morgan & Morgan sponsored the WWE, Rudin Law sponsored Wildcat Sports. Now you're all familiar with this thing over here, the funnel. It starts wide with an audience of potential people, narrows down, narrows down, narrows down, to the bottom, your potential clients. But there's another concept here coined by Seth Godin. He's the purple cow guy. He called it flipping the funnel. Turn your strangers into friends, your friends into your customers, and your customers into your salespeople. That's what the community engagement strategy does. It's creating relationships with people to create these local champions for you who will spread the gospel of your brand. These people that you connect with, that you lift up, that you help, will become your biggest cheerleaders in the community, your unpaid spokespeople, your true believers, your local champions. Now, this only works if you deliver excellent service, but I'm sure you all do. At my firm, we attend every wrestling event. We shake hands, we kiss babies, we give out free stuff. But really what we're doing is we're meeting non-lawyers and inviting them to connect with us in a way that doesn't feel like solicitation. For my firm, it's wrestling events. For other firms, it might be pro sports games. But really, it could be anything that people give a shit about. I know a guy who built his whole firm off of Rotary Club meetings. If you're that man or woman of God, maybe it's your church, your synagogue, or your mosque. That's the linchpin of your community engagement efforts. If you're a bicycle lawyer or a skateboard lawyer, maybe you're sponsoring racing clubs or attending competitions or just hanging around the skate park giving out helmets and knee pads. The point here is that repetition is key. It's not a one-shot deal. You can't just hit it and quit it. It's a longer play with multiple touch points, multiple conversations. You have to show back up time after time after time. But if you do, it works. Now, I told you that we go to these events and we give away gear. But before we talk about the gear, we need to talk about the Costco hot dog. You might be saying, why the Costco hot dog? Well, did you know that Costco loses money selling 100 million hot dogs for $1.50 a pop each year? But to Costco, the hot dogs are loss leaders. To Costco, the hot dogs are a tool for branding. They create customer loyalty. They remind customers of who Costco is. So what's the connection to your firm? Well, wearables, giveaways, and gifts can do the same thing when done right. They can be your firm's loss leaders and an incredibly effective tool for branding. At my firm, my mentality is simple. If you'll wear it, I'll buy it for you. It's basically free marketing. But the key and the hardest part is giving people merch they want to wear. I'm gonna say it one more time for you guys in the back. Give people merch they want to wear. I bet you all have giveaways in your office. But how many of you have giveaways that don't make your firm name the focal point? No one wants to wear a shirt with your firm name on it. I take it back. Maybe your mom or your spouse or your kids want to wear the bullshit and bullshit PLC t-shirt, but no one else does. At my firm, none of our gear has our firm name as the focal point. The original shirt, the one I've been wearing around here and giving out, is simple but bold. It gets people talking. It gets attention everywhere. People read the front and they say, ooh, stop being polite. I like that. What's the back say? And I look at them, and I turn around, and I give them the elevator pitch. I say, are you tired of getting pushed around by insurance companies? You gotta stop being polite and get rude. And then I offer to send them one if they send me their size and their address, and I do all the time. We also create other shirts with variations on famous logos and just things we think that people will be interested in, will connect with, and want to wear. Now, we also create shirts in the colors of local sports teams, like black and gold for the Saints, purple and yellow for LSU, light blue and green for Tulane, and famous local events like purple, green, and gold for Mardi Gras. Now, this is something that everyone can do no matter where you're located, no matter what your state or what your metro area, you can create shirts in the colors of your local sports teams. And this serves a dual strategy because we're giving people shirts they want to wear, and we're giving them shirts where they'll have a place to wear them in public. That's the point. At our wrestling events, we create shirts tailored to iconic wrestling brands that we think will resonate with fans and that they will want to wear. And they do time after time after time. We see them in the shirts we gave them the first event, at events 6 and 7 and 8, and so on. Now, with respect to gifts and giveaways, there's a phrase I stole called be a giftpreneur. If you're giving somebody a gift, give them a great gift. Give them something they actually want and will actually use. That's the point. And they'll remember where the gift came from, and they'll tell everybody they got it, both when they received it and every time they use it. With gifts, give them something without your firm name on it, or somewhere subtle. For example, if you're giving someone a thank you gift, and you give them Tiffany champagne glasses or a Waterford vase, don't engrave your name on the side. Put it on the bottom. If it's on the side, it's gonna sit in the closet and collect dust, and that's not the point. Similarly, if you give them Bose noise-canceling headphones, put your name on the inside of the headband, not the outside of the ear pad. Simple fixes, but it adds a lot of value to the recipient. If you handle auto cases like me, here's just a quick thought on giveaways. These are things that you can have in your car if you're a potential client, and it'll remind folks both when they get in a wreck and throughout the year of who you are, and they're relatively inexpensive. Plug-in tire pumps, registration or insurance card holders, air fresheners, first aid kits. If you live up north, snow scrapers. If you live down south, sunshades. Super easy, relatively cheap. But the strategy with all of this is be receiver oriented. Put the recipient first. Design something they want to wear. Give them something they want to use. Make your firm name subtle or an afterthought. It might seem ass backwards, but if you remember, it's not about you, you'll actually benefit. Now, your mind might be racing with a million different t-shirt ideas, but before you run out and create that t-shirt, remember what I said first. You have to have a bold brand. Otherwise, you're just creating another shirt that's gonna end up a thrift shop contribution or a cleaning rag, and that's not the point. Now, once you get bold and get local, you're going to be excited to share it. And that's where I say, get digital. Because the internet is where consumer eyeballs are now and where they will continue to be into the future. 10 years ago, Gary Vee said, the phone isn't the second screen, it's the first one. And his point was this: everyone is looking at their phones all the time. They're looking at them as they walk past that expensive end cap in the supermarket. They're looking at them while your TV commercials are airing, and they're looking at them, sad to say, while they drive by your billboards. Everywhere that advertisers pay top dollar for consumer eyeballs, our potential clients are staring at their phones. And if they can't see our brands, what's the point of having them? So what should we do? We gotta meet the people where they are, which is on the internet. There's two types of content, offensive content and defensive content. Now, this doesn't say offensive content, but if you've been listening, you know I don't think that's that bad. It's 2025. We are incredibly conditioned to ignore things. We ignore 99% of things in our field of vision. That's what scrolling is. It's saying not interested, not interested, not interested in micro intervals all the time. And we need to get potential clients to stop and say, wait a minute, what was that? Oh, I might be interested in that. And to do that, I say, you need to be bold to stop the scroll. With respect to organic social content and paid digital ads, if you're trying to get attention, your ads must be different. That's why a lot of lawyers use car crash porn or shocking content. It's why I use skits and costumes. The idea is the same. You need to hook the viewer, and then you can deliver your brand message. But if you can't hook them, you never get the opportunity. Now, the other side of this is defensive digital content. And by that I mean, don't let your presence on the internet be a deterrent. Social media pages and your website are where clients come for social proof. Don't shoot yourself in the foot with no presence or an antiquated presence. Do you have a current LinkedIn profile picture, or are we looking at a gray avatar placeholder? Is your website modern, or was it built on Windows 94? You shouldn't think that every post you make will be cutting edge and get 1 million likes or views. But you have to have organic content and a website where potential clients can come and learn who you are so they can know and like you, and see that you're a real lawyer so they can trust you. Because after you've done the hard part of getting potential clients to your page, you don't want to lose them. You have to have something presentable up there so they can see that you're not a dinosaur or a ghost, but a real modern lawyer. We've reached the end. Here are the takeaways. You need to get bold and do something, anything with your brand, even if it's just changing the colors, to break through the noise and get attention. You need to get local and build a stable of local champions through community engagement efforts and receiver-oriented wearables, giveaways, and gifts. And lastly, get digital through social media to spread your brand reach in a cost-effective way, and make sure you have a defensive internet presence so you don't lose those potential clients you worked so hard to attract. All right. We started this presentation talking about my dad, and we're going to finish that way too. This is my dad. What I didn't tell you before is that we lost my dad suddenly 4 months ago. And as fate would have it, Pimcon called a week later. The universe is funny like that. It's not lost on me how important it is to be on this stage. I'm a new firm. We're not that old. I really appreciate what Chris and Ashley have done, giving me this opportunity. I'm just sad that I couldn't share it with my dad. He was my hero and my sounding board in life and business, and my biggest fan. He'd be sitting right there in the front row. I know it. After he died, my family sat with the rabbi and we talked for a long time, and the rabbi looked at me and he said, "Lee, what's your dad's legacy?" And I looked at him and I wiped my eyes and I told him, "It's my younger brother, and it's me." So I'm going to continue to build the Get Rude brand for as long as I can to keep the Rudin name, the one that my dad gave us, alive, even if I have to put the clown suit on to do it. Thank you all for indulging me. Take care of each other and stop being polite. Get rude.